You'll recall, I don't know when it was, several months ago. Maybe it was 6, 8 months ago. I don't even know when it was. We had Nick Troiano on the program. He's the executive director of The Can Kicks Back. And I say it that way because it's supposed to be a hip millennial way of selling the idea that we should be cutting Social Security and Medicare to balance the budget for reasons that we aren't quite clear as to why we should do that, except for we all know that in a household, you got to balance your budget. You would never spend more if you were a household, if you were in debt, to get out of debt, right? Never. Why would you do that? Even if you're a business. Have you ever heard of a business borrowing money when they're in debt? Except for most of the businesses that borrow money when they're in debt. But forget about that. Look, that's what the Can Kicks Back about. It's the sort of the little cousin to Fix the Debt. That group that basically funded by hedge funders and Wall Street who want to privatize Social Security. Well, it seems that Politico somehow got a hold of a history of documents, including financial statements and internal deliberations over policy decisions, online in a Google group that was open to public view but was recently closed. So much for those millennials knowing about technology. Fix the Debt furnished nearly $200,000 in seed money to the Can Kicks Back in late 2012. We'll spend most of that money on shooting great videos like Gangnam Style parodies. But with the grand bargain dead in the water, writes Politico, both groups have struggled of late. Fix the Debt is in the midst of an organizational transition. While the Can Kicks Back is facing questions about the group's finance and future direction. As of November, the Can Kicks Back was operating at a small loss. Wait, what does that mean? That they had an operating deficit? Well, I'm confused.
How does that work?
What are you talking about?
Well, the group's cash reserves were down to $70,000, with more than $75,000 in bills.
Wow!
They've got a $5,000 deficit. Oh. Nick Troiano, former guest on the Majority Report, co-founder and communications director of the group, wrote in a November email, without someone else covering staff costs and without fundraising miracles like Stan or near Stan happening consistently, I don't know how we can both sustain an organization and do meaningful things. Troiano was referring to a large donation by hedge fund manager Stan Druckenmiller, who gave the group $250,000 check in June of 2013, which accounted for nearly 40% of the group's fundraising haul last year. Man, they're just blowing through money and with nothing to show for it. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievably profligate spending. I mean, $250,000 in June, and by November, you're $5,000 in the hole? What are they doing with this money? The group has approached Fix the Debt for additional financial resources. Oh, they just keep going, borrowing more money. What next? Borrowing it from China? They also asked to be set up with former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, former BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, Salesforce.com CEO Mark Benoff, Venture Capitalist Reid Hoffman, eBay CEO John Donahue, and others. Both Fix the Debt and Kicks the Can Back, or whatever it is, have struggled with the perception they are AstroTurf advocacy groups that are acting as mouthpieces of Wall Street and corporate interests. Now, how could anyone get that impression whatsoever? That one check from that hedge funder accounted for only 40% of their fundraising, surely the other 60% would spread out amongst 3 or 4 other hedge funders. In response to a 2012 Slate piece by Dave Weigel, linking that the kick cans back with billionaire anti-debt activist Pete Peterson, one of the founders, Eisenstadt, argued that the group should request a correction, saying that the perception they are Peterson funded was hurting their credibility. Apparently, they wrote, quote, technically, one can make an argument that we are, wrote a fellow co-founder. We receive most of our money from a Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, which has received large amounts of funding from Peterson. So, I mean, technically speaking, one could make that argument. But it's hurting our credibility, so please don't make it. You'll recall, I think we had Troiano on around the time or shortly before these op-eds started poking up, identical op-eds in different college publications around the country. Well, apparently Troiano was pretty upset about it because he wrote in some email exchange that Politico had their hands on, I wrote the op-ed for Fix the Debt to use for our members who participated in their fly-in. That's like a Washington Advocacy Day. Quote, I assume they wouldn't be such idiots about placing the same one 3 times. Yeah, I think a lot of people assume that. And then another co-founder wrote in an exchange in February of last year, due to the fact that we've become so ingrained as part of Fix the Debt, I'm going to have to ask you to remove me from the website and any promotional materials. Fix the Debt is increasingly seen, I think in a lot of ways justifiably, as a mouthpiece for corporate America and particularly Wall Street. Without diversity of backing from other sectors, it's becoming difficult for me to justify my role in supporting such an effort. That guy, Parent, his name remains on the website. I think the way that he ended up justifying it was, we should all take salaries while doing this. So kick the can, or can kicks back, or whatever it is. Please clean up your own backyard before you start saying that we should cut Social Security for old people. That would be my message to you.